most of us are super busy because the day starts and it doesn't end. There is work to do at home. There are children at home. There is family at home, and then there's work to do. So all that put together, is today encompassing the full day that we have. So there is actually no end. It ends at 11, sometimes 12, sometimes 12:30, and then back again in the morning, 8:30 or 9. So that's what's work from home right now. And so the stress around that. The other challenge is that we are all indoors, and because we are all indoors, and now we got a further extension, there's a lot of anxiety in ourselves personally, anxiety now. How do we manage people and employees around? The other challenge that we are all facing is the WhatsApp. So it's so much of information. All of us by now can easily apply for PhDs in Corona, and so that infodemics, and then there's an infodemic, which is also very depressing. So who do I trust? What do I do? And all the uncertainty around this. I think that is what is gripped us today. And in all this, the fundamental element for all of us is to be positive, happy, peaceful, and most importantly, strong. So given this, how is it that we are, as captains of this industry, required to lead people? We have people who are able to work from home, and then there are those in factories, etc., who are at home but really cannot do much working from home. So what can we do during this time? And the first thing that I thought is important for me to speak with you is about that if you have to manage your employees, and if you have to manage people, in the family and in the employee sector, you have to first start managing yourself. And the first thing that I would ask each one of you to do is 3 or 4 things that has worked for me. And I thought I would share that for you, which I do practice every day, because it is not easy even for me. When it is to when I look at my kids, I look at my family, and I look at the team that I have, and how is it that I'm going to lead them. So the first thing I would recommend each one of you, and what I'm going to talk about is very simple things. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but very simple things that I've done to manage myself. The first, every morning I practice yogic breathing. And yogic breathing is very, very fundamental to improve the immune system. It also is very strong and important for eliminating 70% of my metabolic waste. Today, we are sitting down in little non-active lives. So very important. And so abdominal breathing, as you know, in a ratio of 1:2 of sets of 9 is what I practice every day, and I recommend that each one of you do so. The other thing is also about meditation and relaxation. Please take some time off to meditate a little bit. Choose a quiet location, sit in a comfortable posture, focus your attention, and most importantly, have an open mind. Okay? Please tell yourself that my tension is going to go away, and I have the power to do what is required of me. I am going to come out of this successfully. I am going to be peaceful and relaxed. Your blood pressure, a lot of elements start managing themselves. So very important for you to do this. And the last thing that I would share that I do is mindfulness. Mindfulness is nothing but focusing my attention on the present moment without being judgmental about it. That way I'm able to deal with so many changes that happen. Something that we ask somebody to do, that guy is not doing it, some project, some information. So you have to manage so many changing and dynamic environments. And so therefore, please practice mindfulness. And so these 3 or 4 things I want to leave with you, so that you first use these things to manage yourself. Now coming to the topic of today, which is engaging employees. So with all these challenges that we are facing, what is it that we need to do? A lot of times, a lot of people have asked me this question, Kevin, what is a good and a right and a wrong thing to do during this time? So I thought I put a simple 20-point program, which I want to share with you, which I think should be good. And if this is followed, I think you're doing a great job in terms of engaging your employees. The first, I think this is a time where all of us need to rely on the most fundamental things of us. One, that employee experience is fundamental. It was fundamental when they worked in the office. It is also fundamental now when they're working at home. Second, your company ethos, your values. What is it that you, as captains of industry, wanted your companies to be? That is fundamental. And finally, how is it that you want people to be treated? I want to keep these 3 elements at the base of everything that I want to talk to you about today. So the first thing I think that is very important to understand, especially when we are communicating or engaging with employees, is that people trust people. There may be WhatsApp, etc., etc., but people trust people. It is also important to understand whether we need to be human. And there are a lot of stories that are there within our groups, within your organization, and people can learn from these stories and use those in your elements of communication. And finally, it is very important to understand when we communicate, whatever words we are using, text we are sending, what's the impact? What's that impact it's going to have on the guy, whether he's a worker or whether he's your staff? So the first thing is, let the leaders, whoever are doing this, don't panic. Please do not panic, because just like our children look at us and they emulate. So if the daddy and the mummy gets panicked in the house, the kids are panicked. There was a time where my daughter, who's 18, did not want to even step out of the house. She was that scared. And then that's when we both realized as father and mother that it is she has to emulate and look at how we are acting. And so it was very important for us to bring in that confidence. The other thing is, who that person is going to make your decisions and going to communicate. Very, very important. Please choose wisely when it comes to the manager who is going to communicate with people, because the people need to trust this person in whatever he communicates. There are employees that are different types. First, the employee who is your workman, who is supposed to be at home but does not have much work to do. The second, there are people who are working from home who you are interacting with and are working. Third, there are people who are in outside of their home countries or their houses. Okay, and so they are those who are non-locals. And then there is the other set of people who are actually going through a problem, which is either they are quarantined or somebody in their family is suffering and is quarantined or in hospital. So these are the kind of sets of people that you're talking to, and how is it that one needs to do. So the start point to every communication is, please have a crisis or a communication plan. And that communication plan needs to be clear. It has to be flexible. It is something that you would need to evaluate, because as you know, this environment is very dynamic. So please have a plan that you are constantly evaluating. Share the plan with your employees so that they are able to also give you inputs while you are doing. Okay, so that's the first. The second, please ensure that you have a good communication crisis management team. And when I say team, it could be a combination of the HR guy, the leader of your division or factory or office, admin, and in some cases, the workforce management guy. Now, all these guys put together is what is your communications or your crisis management team. Keep employees informed. I think it's very, very important for all of us to keep employees informed. If there is a lull and there is no information provided, please understand that it would add to the anxiety of employees at home. As it is, they're all stressed, filled with anxiety. And if there is a period where they are not hearing anything, even if they are people who are working or supposed to sit at home but not really working on anything, please communicate with them, because they will feel that, oh my God, what is happening? Company kya kar raha hai? Is it doing well? Something is going to happen. My naukri is there. All that is happening in the head. Please communicate to people on a regular basis. Very, very important. Uh, now, create an environment where there's collaboration. Now, when we were in office, people used to meet at the coffee table. People used to meet, in the cafeteria, etc., and talk. So while you all are all doing conversations that are probably there with people for work, please also have calls where people are just coming close together to just chat. And it could be a WhatsApp group, it could be whatever you would have been able to create. But at least people are coming and meeting and interacting with each other, just like they used to do near the coffee machine or in the cafeteria. Very important. The next is that our government, of course, has done a lot, and there's a lot of misinformation. And so the government has already now put some measures that when we do that, it is actually a crime. And so therefore, please reiterate that fact, because in your WhatsApp groups and in groups that employees are created, you as captains of the industry must reiterate that people do not spread wrong things in those groups. Whether it is about your company, whether it is about a decision that you've taken and somebody is interpreting that, or whether what is happening in the outside world. No misinterpretation on these formal groups. Please update the telephone numbers and emergency contact details of your employees from time to time, especially those who are living alone, and especially those who are living outside. I want to share an example here with you. Yesterday, I had a call with a company that we are doing some work with. And there's this lady who manages their global mobility. or immigrations, senior lady, but she's living at home. And because she was all alone on home, there was a day when her anxiety levels reached such a limit that she actually walked out of the house at 2 a.m. and did not know who to call. So you see, these are things that are happening with people around us. And so therefore it is more and more fundamental that we are able to reach out to people, especially people like who are living alone or who are outside of their family and or native places. Um, in terms of managing this kind of situation, the first thing is, please inform people how to manage working from home. A lot of people, we have assumed that people are going to stay at home and work from home. Most of the people probably do not know how to do that. And the people who we talk to, most of them are living in houses where there's no separate room, there's no desk. They're sitting on a sofa, sometimes on their bed, and trying to work, where the family is running around talking to them. So they really do not know how to do that. And I think it's important for us to help them and expect, tell them how is it that you want them to work from home. Having a little dress code when you're on a conference call, rather than, so that would be some guiding principles for people, as they are working and trying to make the most of this time. um, it is also important for being very intentional about your communication. Now, what do I mean by being intentional? That everything that you say has to enable or help the employee who is working at home to do the job. Now, there are workers who are sitting in the house, they don't have anything to do because they have to do physical work. But they themselves need to be engaged by you telling them something about what is happening around them, some things that we are doing in the office, telling them that there's probably some work that is happening and we are doing that, so that they feel connected and they see that, okay, I'm still part of the organization, although I'm sitting in the house and I have nothing to do. So that's very important. I think this is fundamental to everything that we are setting out ourselves to do, and that's what I said in the start when I said be human. It is important for us to understand that at the end of the day, the other person is also going through the same anxieties that we are. So the other thing that is that, let's see that we used to do work from home. We used to have work in office. We used to also have fun at work. Now, similarly like that, please create environments where they can have fun at home also. Why not? Because I've seen people, and the lot of people that we have been speaking to are working almost like 15 hours, 16 hours a day. Those who are working from home, because you have the housework to do and you have your office work to do. Now that's quite a lot, and I think it's important for us to create some fun at home. Some things like having a tissue decorating contest, face mask decoration contest, a slogan contest where the children are involved and the children are creating a slogan that you put up, on your website, on your intranet, or you make a celebration out of it, give a prize, like a spreadsheet pixel art. So all these, for the guys on the call, I know all of us are doing housework. We are doing the jadu, the katka, the washing of the vessels, because the maids are not there. Create these funny videos around this and post it so that people get to see some fun happening, even if it is happening from the senior guy. This is a time where we need to show that there is still some fun, there's still some connect. Okay, and I think that's very important. In some places, if it is possible, please go the extra mile, create a counseling hotline. As I mentioned to you about this case of a person who went from anxiety to depression because sitting at home alone, it is very important to have somebody who's professionally qualified to talk to. So see if you can provide these kind of facilities, whether it's a counseling number where somebody can call and talk, or if somebody may need some advance or salary or something like that, see if there is any ability for you to do that so that they are not feeling over anxiety over things that are happening. In fact, I was reading the newspapers. We've already seen some suicidal deaths that have happened because of this coronavirus. So I think it's getting into at that phase, and it's important for us to see how we are communicating with our people. There are also people who do not have a good access to the internet. Now, you know that when we are doing the calls so many times from Vodafone, etc., the call drops. Now, they are not able to connect. They are not able to go and do these webinars or these video calls that you're doing. But please don't leave them out. somebody in the team, and that's why I said designate the person who is going to call them, even if it is on a phone, and talk to them for a few minutes so that they are connected with each other. Very, very important. Now you could also, the HR guys earlier used to do these HR listening posts where we used to have people come together. We ask them, "हाँ बोलो भैया क्या था, कैसा रहा, कैसा चल रहा था." Same thing. Please do these HR forums. Please tell your HR guys to do these HR forums or kind of employee meets on the phone, so that it's not about work, but it's also about helping them cope up with what is happening around them. Some of them may have some challenge with their elderly parents living with them. It is our responsibility and moral responsibility to help. So I think these are some things that we should do. Um, Conference calls, I know that a lot of people are doing a lot of them with your teams, but at least twice weekly is the minimum I think I would recommend. This is a good time for us to also do projects. Now, if there's no work that you can give your people, please get some chaps together, do projects on innovation, projects, maybe robotic solutions, your dashboards, or a new market approach, because you're going to get into another challenging time after this coronavirus comes out. So things like that, that they can do, brainstorm, come together, prepare a white paper, which is something that you may use later, but it gets people together and engages with them. Um, Another thing that we could do is also share experiences. Very, very important for us to share experiences of how we've managed to do particular things, whether it's personal or whether it is professional. Because a lot of people I know, while they are saying, yes, sir, we are doing good, we are working from home, they are struggling. And because they are struggling, they are also going through a lot, trying to cope up, to show the management, show everybody that they are able to come up to your expectation. So please bear in mind that they are trying their best. It's important for us to share experiences so that they are able to know this is what happens in this such circumstances. Please avoid micromanaging. Maybe you have a timesheet that people are supplying to you for your attendance, but it is very important to avoid micromanaging, because this is not the time to do that. And that's the reason why I said that the manager who's responsible first needs to manage himself, so that he does not get paranoia and transfers that paranoia onto the people who he is managing. Get feedback on how your communication plan has been, how things are, what's happening. There are also a lot of people who rise above and are doing fantastic jobs in the organization. Please reward them and recognize them. Even if it is every day you found something small, recognize it on that conference call. Clap for that guy. Physically, literally have everyone clap on the call for that person. Because that is the way people, we are human beings. We all like this. And I would recommend as an HR guy to please have this as an engagement, or when you're engaging your employees. Very, very important. Um, it's also a very good time for all of you, because I know some of you I've interacted with. It is also a fantastic time to talk about the values, the vision, mission of your organization, and also most importantly, how is it as an organization you're going to be when this is going to blow over. Very, very good time for you to spend time articulating this, because you never get that time in your day to day. This is a brilliant time to take a call and talk to them about the genesis of your organization. How did 30 years of your company happen? While I know there are a lot of people in your organization who are working for 15, 20 years, but then there are also those who I knew. So please take this time to do that. And finally, this is a brilliant time for you to do some form of training, sales training, for example, or Excel skills training, for example, things that can happen on a webinar. Especially training that you felt was on a performance improvement, training that can be given as a career development, succession planning. That element of training can be done now while people are sitting, and now we have this extended quarantine that we have for ourselves. So these are things. And also please remember to talk especially to your critical resources and people managing critical portfolios, whether they are supposed to do work or not. There has to be a touch time with these guys, because those guys need to belong, and they need to come back. And when they come back, they need to come back with power. So I think these are my 20 tips that I would share with you. And I think that if you are doing things in this area, you are doing some of the best practices in terms of engaging, communicating with people, and also managing yourself. I now share this over to Pratik, who can talk about the legal side of things. Pratik, all yours.
All right. Good evening, and thanks, Kevin, and thanks, Arun, and all to invite me and Kevin for this. And I've been speaking in a lot of forums from past days, and every day it is very different. One of the most important thing, like in Rajasthan, it was supposed to be a hotbed where 27 cases had come, especially from Bhilwara, and how they completely transform. And now today, Bhilwara is one of the most important model to contain this COVID-19, which is really great, which is just hardly any distance from Jaipur. I'm sure that there may be some members out here who are also associated, maybe having some textile factories and all in Bhilwara. So now this is a very, very unprecedented situation where uh, everything is come together. Whole world is in this mess of COVID-19, and while Kenu was explaining that how it will be helpful for a lot of organizations to do various aspects of ensuring that people are engaged in everything and what you can do at home. Most important, I can say, sirdard for all the employers was that March, anyhow we managed to pay salaries and not pay salaries or whatever it is. What are the legal recourses if this goes on in April? Now, earlier 14th April was the last date for the lockdown to be lifted, and people were just thinking that how do we pay 14 days salary if there is no work and all, and can we exercise no work no pay, etc. Can we sack people, or can we at least lay them off? Other issues and concerns were that can I adjust my leaves, or the employees leaves in the salaries, which is that they may be having some leaves and all. Now, because of this extension of lockdown, will that Disaster Management Act, the provision, which is very draconian provision, where there is no bailable, it's a non-bailable warrant, and if at all anyone complains that you not paid wages in full or something, you'll be directly prosecuted. The very recent case happened, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, in Surat. Two employers already sued against, under Section 51(1) of disaster management. So what I'm trying to do here is today is just to explain what is so important about this particular lockdown and what compliances you need to ensure follow. And just post lockdown, maybe after 30th April, what are the legal recourses you can have to see how you manage your workforce? I'm sure, I'm hope that people are able to hear me. Arun, I just wanted to check my mic is working. Kevin, it's completely blocked, so I don't know.
You
Am I?
are, you are.
You're
We
audible.
can hear you, Pratik. I can hear you.
All right.
Please.
Okay. Sure. All right. So let's understand now. So while I was talking about various things, let me just get back to this particular COVID-19 situation now. Uh, this has this is covered in the three acts actually. This particular order, which is passed on time to time by district magistrate, district health authorities, and then of course MHA order, which came on 29th March, restricting all the organizations to ensure that not only have a restrictive vehicular movement and people movement, but at the same time they were directed to ensure that you pay wages or salaries in full. Now, this is part of there are three acts which come into this particular order. One first important act is Epidemics Act 1897. So way back in 1896, in Mumbai, when the huge plague happened, thousands of people died. It was Bombay earlier. In fact, it was a combination of Bombay and Gujarat, if you know the history. And that's how this act was enacted. Very specifically, act was very clear in saying not in order not to spread virus, people need to be contained. No congregation should happen of the employees, or so not employees. I always talk about employees, but not no congregation should happen of the people. So this was very important. And post that, Disaster Management Act 2005, where any disaster happens in India, and this act, which was also enacted way back in 2005, ensuring that the compliances are there. So executive committee is formed under this Disaster Management Act, and depending upon the situation, maybe it's floods and everything, this act comes into play. Now, currently, this situation is more of epidemic, so they will take it with Epidemic Act 1897. So, what does before I go into the recourses, let me just tell you something more important to understand. In a layman's view of the provisions of this act, actually. Now, if at all you don't follow the order of MHA, you know, Ministry of Home Affairs, right from restricting and lockdown and to paying salaries and everything, you would be sued under Section 188 of Indian Penal Code, uh, which cites that disobedience to order disobedience to the order duly promulgated by a public servant, and the term of imprisonment up to 6 months. Similar way, there is a provision under Section 51B of Disaster Management Act, same thing. It says it refusal or failure to comply with direction of an authority under the act, and the imprisonment is up to 1 year. So these are very important. Now, what happened here also is, like in the last 2 days back, the employers in Surat, they failed to pay wages. In fact, they also did wrong because first 25 days they were able to give wages, and they didn't give wages for the whole month. So those are the issues which is there, and they've been sued for that. So issue here is that even if you're sued under this sections, either Indian Penal Code or Disaster Management Act, there will not be any legal relief because all the courts are closed. So very important for all the employers to understand that though you may say that you don't have money and everything, and you don't have resources to maybe pay the wages to the employees, but at the same time, this is very important to note that if at all you don't comply, these are the penalties and all. So now let's look at the scenario. I don't want to say more scenario pre-lockdown because the time is gone, and I'm sure that today is 12th April. You must have already paid wages also to most of the staff. Still, let me just reiterate, during the lockdown period, there are two sets of people which work. One is which you have is the workman category, where which are covered in the Industry Dispute Act, right from doing technical work to clerical work to doing unskilled, semi-skilled, skilled job, which is as per the definition of Industry Dispute Act. And whether it is in manufacturing or non-manufacturing service sector, they are all workman category. And then the second set of people who work in your organization is employee category, which is non-workmen. Okay, maybe more of supervisory, administrative, and and managerial positions. So let's see, what are your rights in terms of law in lockdown period and post lockdown. So in lockdown, uh, A is due to this order where it mentions employer, where it mentioned worker. All these workmen need to be paid full salary. So that's very clear, and I already just discussed about the provision of the act under Disaster Management Act, where it supersedes all other provisions. So whatever is mentioned in the act, if there is a concurrent law which is repugnant to this laws which is enacted way back, like Industrial Dispute Act or Standing Order Act and all, this act will supersede all those acts. So this is very, very important for you to note, that the provisions, if it is directed that you to pay salaries, you may say that I can always lay off, but that will not happen because of this act. So now it comes to employee side, which is non-workmen and all, depends upon your employment contract which you have. So based on the appointment letter and employment contract, you can actually revise the employment contract based on the acceptance of the employee. It can happen during the lockdown as well and post lockdown, uh, because the employment contract is under Indian Contract Act, and that does not supersede, because none of the order doesn't state anything about the contracts and all. So employee appointment letters and everything is treated as contract, And very important that contracts, when we talk about, you need to see the terms and condition of contracts. You can always revise the wages, revise the salaries for such employees. You may bring it down to 20%, 20% cut and all. But one thing you need to remember, that you cannot reduce the basic wages less than 15,000 and gross wages less than 21,000. Just in case if you have certain employees who are managerial and supervisory category, and they are also in this particular wage bracket, because then there'll be a violation of under PF and ESI Act. Wearing that, if you're taking care of this particular aspect of PF and ESIC, ensuring the basic and gross respectively is maintained, it's more than that, then you are okay to reduce salaries for such employees as per your mutual understanding with such said employees. But just want to reiterate that with the workers it's not possible at all because of this act. Now comes post lockdown. Uh, One more important fact which I wanted to know, wanted to tell you is that though this, order which was passed, under Section 10(1) of the Disaster Management Act around 31st of March or 29th of March, saying that you need to pay wages. So all employees were expected that at least the lockdown period of 25th March to 31st, and taking the lockdown of the Janta curfew, that is 22nd March, you at least pay those days which is expected, and I think most of the organizations did it. But now the fact is, now what we do about 1st to 14th and post 14th up to 30th April. So this particular order, though it is draconian, sort to say, government is expected that this week there'll be a change in order. They'll relax certain norms and conditions. They may also implement that you may, you know, pay part wages to the workmen as well. If such order comes from the government, then you may try to implement those. But unless and until this order doesn't come, then the said order prevails as far as the earlier order of 29 March is concerned. Now, in this particular lockdown situation, there may be many of you guys who may be also under essential services. So there's a list of essential services. Every state, including Rajasthan and other states, had listed, right from hospitals and can say IT industries, enabled services, then banks, insurance companies, and loads of like groceries, XYZ. So this list of essential services, which was mentioned in this particular section of the Disaster Management Act, doesn't apply to those companies. So if you are those companies either in manufacturing or either in service sector, and if you've already arranged, say for example, curfew passes for the workmen or employees, or some sort of arrangement of transport, and if the workman or employee still doesn't come and report to the work, saying that no, I'm fear about COVID-19, meko lag jayega and all that, and I don't, my family is not allowing me. For such employees, because they're part of essential services or manufacturing, for such employees or workmen, you can mark them as absent. Okay, leave without pay. You can do that, and you can take a normal recourse of what normally HR does. You send a letter to them, and if they are not responding and all, you can always remove them. There are a lot of cases which has happened that most of the employees, they have gone and fled away to their villages. Most of the workmen, including the essential services one. While non-essential service, even if they've gone to villages and all, you still pay because they are on your muster roll. Essential services, you may choose to not pay, simply because you're part of essential service and you ask them to work and they're supposed to work. They cannot say no. What if, for example, the hospitals and doctors, they also refuse to work? It cannot happen, right? So there's the specifically government is told them to this thing doesn't apply to them. Having said that, during the lockdown, if your employees or workmen, they apply for leaves and they say, okay, fine, I'll apply for leave. We understand the situation and understand the management situation. We apply for leave and you sanction it, that's compliant. but you as an employer cannot enforce a workman or employee to take leave. I hope you get that message very clear. That's very important. Now, Capgemini, in fact, had enforced, a lot of employees to go on leave, and one of the smart guys had complained, and there was a big case and the newspaper item which came in Hyderabad per se. So, if at all you can communicate with your employees or the workmen, there's a situation, and if the workmen and everything understand, they apply for leaves and all, so that is allowable even during the lockdown period. So now let's talk about post-lockdown period. What are the legal recourses you have, if at all you really want to still run the show now? If at all you have a lot of raw materials left and you cannot really, a lot of loan is taken, you really don't have money to pay wages. Now that cannot be excused because you very well know recession and everything, whenever it happens, you just can't say that I cannot pay wages to the employees. There's an argument where some of the legal experts are saying that if you go to see the balance sheet of the organization, they have on the liability side, they have reserves and surplus and all, they should be paying wages to the employees. At the same time, they have a lot of assets. So our argument also was, even if you have assets, even if you have home and you have office and this whole issue about it, who will come and buy this office or buy the factory and everything? So these are the issues which a lot of employers have. But at the same time, what a lot of legal practitioners saying, that as far as salaries to the employee or the workmen are concerned, you can get borrow, still you need to pay. There is no other option but unless and until there is some new notification which comes. So talking about post lockdown period, uh, most important which you can do is, if you have 50 and less workmen which is working in your organization, you can directly declare them, ask them to work from home, and no work no pay, you can adopt that policy. Between 50 to 100 or 300, in fact in Rajasthan now it is 300 as far as industry dispute act is concerned. Between 50 to 300, you can declare a a layoff, and you need to pay 50% of wages to all those employees or workmen, not employees but workmen category, up to 45 days. And post 45 days, you can actually retrench, the employees on a LIFO based, last in first out basis. And above 100 or above 300, depending upon the state, you have to seek permission from the labor department for going on a layoff. So this is the scenario of post layoff. You can also do one thing whereby, say for example, in your factory premises or your establishment or your offices, you have all your workmen category. You enter into a wage settlement, and you mention that because of the scenario, and they agree for the 20% or 30% cut, and each and every workman, I'm talking about the workman post post lockdown scenario, they agree and they sign off, then you can still implement that with the wage cut. Okay, so that's possible. Or else you give a 21-day notice under Section 9A of the Industrial Dispute Act, and you can actually reduce the number of working hours, because you don't know how the future is, and you may just require people for half time, and half of the time you may not require that much production not there or order not there. So during for the half time they work, maybe 4-5 hours a day, you may just give that much half wages, that is 50% of normal wages which you're giving. Post lockdown and during the lockdown as well, as far as employees are concerned, you can definitely not give variable pay. It is all about fixed pay which you agreed with the employees, you have to pay. Variable pay you're not obligated to give. So it's all there, and it's gross wages, not basic wages. So that's what my small take is on this particular scenario. While I'm talking, and I think there is one question from Emil Gupta, that if you arrange for work from home and if 2-3 employees are not working out of 60 people, are you bound to pay non-working employees? Now, now depends upon Mr. Gupta, is it under essential service or non-essential service? Number one. Also depends upon, are they workman category or employee category? So let me just clarify this both. Okay. Now, if it is non-essential service, which I presume mostly in your case, and if it is an employee category, and if you already have, Kevin was also speaking about that, if you already have work from home policy, that you need to be basically putting a timesheet, I need to work, and then a supervisor will approve and all those. If you already have that particular policy, then if they are not putting those and they are not adhering to the policy, then you can choose not to give them wages for those 2 3 days because they are bound by the policy of the organization. But if it's a workman, okay, and if you don't have policy also, even if this 2 3 employees, or sorry, workmen, they don't work from work from home and all, you still have to pay wages. So that's very important. And you're saying about employees, then depending upon policy, if they're non-workmen and everything, you may consider as leave, not leave, absent and not working. But most important thing, was there a policy prior to lockdown, or you made the policy just because of the lockdown? If you have no policy existed earlier, then it's a catch 22. It's an issue here, because if no policy is there, then you cannot exercise any. See, policy means what? It's like a contract or an understanding, and employees are accepted. If there is no contract and no understanding, then on what basis you can stop 2 3 employees who are not working, and on what basis you can stop them? So that's very important. Of course, 2 3 days you may tell them verbally that you don't do, I'll not I'll reduce the salaries and everything, and third day he starts behaving. That's what most of the organization done. So this is what the problem is, that you may still exercise the option because he is a non-workman, but you may not have that say, because he may always argue, I didn't have the policy, and that's the reason. How can I do it? If you're able to convince the employee that this is what the whole thing is, and the whole generic way, and the policy is now there in place, so you need to adhere to the policies, and to save his job, he may basically adhere that. So that's what it is. I would really urge everyone, actually, you need to have the policy in place, and communicate with the especially the employees category. So that's very important. Anything else? In fact, so thanks, Mr. Gupta. Any other questions? Arun, over to you. Any other questions people may have? I've already clarified what you need to do lockdown and post lockdown and different industries and all. But any questions to me?
Kailash ji, you want to speak something?
Can I ask? So my question is that in an organization, firstly, since it is a first time people are experiencing this lockdown scenario, there may not be a work from home policy, and that policy we are exercising for the first time. Number one. Number two, are you listening?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Number two, there will be set of employees which can work from home, and there will be set of employees which actually cannot work from home because the work related to them is not possible. Then in that case, and if you have a now devised work from home policy, then how do you segregate, or how do you comply for the wages and salaries to them?
Okay. Now, especially the employee category, I'm not talking about workman category, and you're talking about employee category. In this employee category, we have two sets of people. One which can work from home, and you can maybe through a laptop or something involved, and which another is even if they would like to work from home, there is no other option, but they cannot work from home, in the given situation. What I would suggest is, and I told that you need to change the employment contracts or your understanding with such employees on one-to-one basis. As I told, that contracts are not affected for this particular order. If you have an understanding that these are the revised terms and conditions of the contract, and he accepts it, okay, and in that it's clearly mentioned that the ABC, he has to work from home, and this is a new work from home policy, and he needs to put up a timesheet XYZ and all. And second is that just because the other person is not working from home, you may still want to give him some wages because he's still part of your organization anymore. You may say that because you're not working from you're still at home, you're a senior professional, you're not contributing to anything, I will just give 50% or 60% wages. if this is drafted well and it's communicated to that employee and employee accepts it. I'm again reiterating, employee accepting is very important. At the revised terms and condition of the contract of employment, then it is doable, Mr. Kailash.
No, but you said there is an order which is on 29th of March, which is a magistrate order, or a
Yes,
DM order, wherein, I mean, even if you do not have a policy or even if they are not working from home, you are liable to pay full salary. That is what you said. Then
yes,
how it, I mean, doesn't it contradict with whatever we are, uh, is post lockdown, if you are saying fine, but in the lockdown period, then we have to comply by that legality.
correct. Now, what I'm trying to say here is, uh, as far as March is concerned, you already must have paid the salaries, which I'm talking about
Yes.
lockdown in April. Now, we may have a certain notification coming very soon on that particular lockdown, that what wages you need to give and everything, and wages or salaries we need to give is in very distant first week of May. Having said that, you may still go ahead and basically go for the contract change, okay, and it's a non-workman, though the order specifies workers and all the workmen, including your contractual badli or even the migrant workers. It always talks about workers. Okay, if you clearly see the order, it always talks about workers. uh, it is expected that if the employees are there and they are working from home, then you're supposed to pay them, because you're honoring the only the workplace is changing from office or factory, it is changing to home. So that is changing. If the employees are working work from home and their employee category, then their employment contract is very clear on that. So it is like no work, no pay may be initiated. The Up to March end, a lot of organizations, though it was not applicable to the employee category, also they have paid it. So now the question comes now, during this particular first April, 30th April, if you're able to exercise this option which I told you, it may be it may be not treated or under DM Act. In fact, DM Act also, when it specifies that you need to pay all wages, the notification should come this week to relax certain provisions under this act. Now, DM Act, though it's a draconian thing, it will not be so effective for the employee category, because they always mention workman and worker, because workman and worker is not employee, which we normally specify.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions to me or to Kevin? Arun, over to you.
Any other questions, members? Fine. So, I mean, thanks, Kevin, as well as Pratik, for joining us. I mean, definitely, it must be in a eye opener kind of a session for most of the members as well. Though they are, I mean, planning at their end what they can do best for their organization as well as for the employees. But definitely, knowing more about the legalities and how we can engage more with the employees is definitely a must kind of thing at a given point of time during these pandemic kind of situations which are facing, everyone is facing. So, I mean, let's connect once again if possible. If there is a further requirement from the members, and definitely I'll get in touch with you both, and let's see how we can take it ahead. And take care, everyone. Thanks for
Thank
joining
you
in.
very much. Stay home, stay safe, and once again, I mean, happy
Thank you. Thank you. And same
Thank
to
you.
you.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Kevin.